Maya didn't hear the system fail. She felt it, like a silent fracture beneath her feet. Not a crash of servers, not code collapsing in a blaze. No, this was more delicate. The unraveling of illusion. The slow, suffocating realization that the glossy startup didn't care about stability, about substance, just optics and pre-IPO hype. The workspace reeked of fermented ambition and designer smoothies. Her corner seat, encased in transparent panels meant to inspire openness, was nothing more than a fish tank where talent suffocated behind code commits and forgotten credit. She deployed a patch that saved their entire infrastructure, again. A silent line of Python correcting a critical flaw introduced by the new golden boy, Derek Langley, freshly minted CTO and patron saint of mediocrity. While she typed, he postured in the front room, marker in hand, explaining scalability to a group of engineers who had already solved the problem years ago. His whiteboard sermon sounded like he'd skimmed an old CS textbook and highlighted the words disruptive, frictionless, and vertical integration like they were holy scripture. Maya's fingerprints were on every corner of the product, every transaction, every secure login. The elegant UI? That was her front-end encryption schema tucked under a polished React interface. The analytics dashboard? Her modular logic. The onboarding flow that investors loved to screenshot. During pitch decks? She built it in her apartment before there even was a company, and yet, on Slack, in public retrospectives, during launch meetings, Derek soaked in credit like a sponge in a branding workshop. All he had to do was copy-paste her functions, rename a couple variables, and slap his name across the pull request like a toddler finger painting on a Rembrandt. Maya didn't need applause. She didn't crave applause. But it burned to see people get standing ovations for handing out her blueprints like party favors while she faded into background processes and Jira tickets. At one point, she used to believe in the dream. She remembered staying up until 3 a.m. rewriting recursive logic loops just because it was beautiful, just because she could. But somewhere between her 7th invisible fix and the company's 3rd podcast interview featuring Derek as their technical visionary, something in her shifted. She became the ghost in the machine. Quiet, flawless, unacknowledged. Keeping everything upright while the clowns in suits took victory laps. The startup was surging. VC rounds overflowing. Product mentions from influencers pretending to use the app while sipping neon lattes. But not once did her name cross anyone's lips in the press briefings. In daily stand-ups, Derek would say, "We built this," with the casual arrogance of a man who had never written a clean loop in his life. At lunch, devs quoted her past comments like gospel, line for line, never realizing the woman microwaving soup beside them was the original prophet. Maya wasn't just the infrastructure. She was the temple. And while we're here, quick sidebar, 97% of you glorious lurkers listen to these stories without subscribing. I'm not mad. Just heartbroken in a very passive-aggressive, silent tea drinker kind of way. Smash that subscribe button and help me hit 10K before I start crying into my keyboard. Cool? Cool. Back to the disintegration. Every morning, before anyone else arrived, Maya ran her rituals. Booted up the environment. Ran CI checks. Made her green tea. Reviewed old commits from her legacy project, the one she started before this company even knew her name. It wasn't code. It was scripture. A living journal written in logic gates and graceful recursion. The founders didn't recruit a developer. They accidentally hired the architect of a system more robust than their entire back-end team's caffeine-fueled chaos. And slowly, they twisted it. Diluted her art into something sellable. First, they asked her to import her prototype. Then Derek repackaged her modules under his name, replacing nothing but the header comment. One of her original authentication routines was now published internally as Derek Token Handler _V2. A name so offensively dumb it practically begged for karma. That's when it hit her. She wasn't a contributor. She was a glorified wrench. A high-priced tool for a machine that didn't value the hands holding it. She didn't rage. She didn't post vague tweets. She built walls, quiet ones. Silent precautions. Small decisions that meant everything. She kept her private repo untouched. She never fully ported the deepest layers of her design, her security heartbeat protocols, her private validation loops, into the master branch. Not out of spite. Not then. It was instinct. Something ancient. Something that whispered, "This doesn't belong to them." Derek was the final insult. The overconfident suit who drank third-wave espresso and called it innovation. A man who once tried to explain hashing algorithms to her after mispronouncing SHA 256 in a meeting. He had swagger, veneers, and a complete lack of curiosity. Dangerous combination. His favorite power play? Friday afternoon meetings at 4:30. Disguised ambushes dressed up as alignment sessions. When she saw the calendar invite, she already knew. Not the specifics. just the tone. The calculation. The conference room stank of LaCroix and cheap cologne with names like Midnight Hustle or Startup Alpha. Maya entered with a notebook and a stone stomach. Derek was lounging like a discount Bond villain, legs spread, arms wide, grinning like he'd invented JavaScript himself. On the projector, Team Alignment, Vision 2025, written in Comic Sans. A crime against both design and dignity, so, he began, dragging the word like it owed him money, just wanted to realign on expectations. He used the word expectations like she was a rebellious intern instead of the person who literally built their product from scratch. Given the new direction, he said, we need to ensure full synergy. His tone dripped with faux kindness. Especially from you. Maya sat slowly. Didn't blink. Didn't smile. Derek leaned forward. Quick reminder, anything created during your tenure here belongs to us. All of it. He grinned. Even the lunchtime experiments. She didn't laugh. Neither did the intern fumbling with an HDMI cable in the corner. But hey, great work, he added. Truly. Let's just keep it a team effort, yeah. 5 minutes of legalistic condescension disguised as praise. And in that moment, something inside her clicked. She didn't rage. She didn't storm out. She walked back to her desk. Sat down. And opened 2 tabs, one for her current workspace, and one for her private repo. The sacred one. The original seed. Her soul and script. The code was still there. Still elegant. Still alive, and deep inside that logic sat something dormant. A heartbeat monitor. A validator. A gatekeeper she'd written before she even joined the company. A fragment of brilliance hidden behind false simplicity. It didn't do anything yet, but it could, and for the first time in a long while, Maya realized she wasn't tired. She was ready. That night, Maya sat in silence, not the kind born from confusion, but the focused stillness of someone measuring the edges of a trap. Her apartment, a small but uncluttered space above a bookstore, felt too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes fluorescent bulbs buzz louder than usual. She didn't turn on music. Didn't light a candle. Just opened her laptop and pulled up the document she hadn't touched in nearly 2 years, her employment contract. Clause after clause crawled down the screen like legal snakes. Every paragraph crafted by someone who thought protection meant extracting everything from a mind without respecting where it began. The language was clinical. Ownership of all intellectual property created during employment, proprietary. Logic designed while operating under company resources. Every phrase intended to trap creators in a corporate vice. She read it again. And again. Then she opened a new tab and searched for case law involving code authorship and termination disputes. 10 articles in, it became clear, they'd written the contract to be a fortress. Ironclad. Ruthless. Still, a line stood out. During the period of employment. It haunted her. Not because it was menacing, but because it was incomplete. Loopholes. Didn't always shout. Some whispered. And Maya was fluent in whispers. She needed outside perspective. Her first call was to someone who'd survived the same fire. Priya, once a star engineer at another glitter-drenched tech firm, now a stay-at-home mom who'd traded stand-ups for sippy cups and quarterly reviews for PDA bake sales. Priya answered on the 3rd ring, child shrieking in the background. What happened now? Maya explained everything. The ambush meeting. The veiled threats. The overwritten credits. Derek smirked. Priya didn't sound surprised. Of course he did. They always do. These guys think the keyboard was invented just so they can take screenshots of your brilliance and slap it on a pitch deck. They own it all, Maya murmured. They own what you built there. Not what you brought in. Don't confuse those. Maya let that sink in. Think about it, Priya added. You stopped updating your original repo the day you signed that contract, right? Right. Then, that code isn't theirs. It's a guest in their house, not part of the foundation. They invited it in. They never adopted it. That thought lingered. Later that night, with the windows cracked open and the city humming faintly below, Maya pulled out a dusty folder on her desktop. Not digital dust. Emotional dust. Inside, the very first iteration of her system.it was raw. Somewhat chaotic. Loops nested too deep. Conditional sloppy. But the essence of her brilliance was undeniable. It held the soul of someone who once wrote security protocols like poetry, crafted with intention, and guarded with paranoia. She scrolled to the section she remembered vaguely from a night fueled by cold noodles and Miles Davis, a silent subroutine that verified the owner key. It didn't do anything dramatic, just pinged for validation. A whisper. An identity check. If the right signal didn't return, the system rerouted itself into a harmless echo chamber of falsified data. The kind of trick that made debugging feel like chasing shadows. She tested it, locally. Still worked. Still nimble. Still hers. Maya leaned back and exhaled slowly. If anyone else ever tried to call that function without the key, the system wouldn't collapse. It would just lie. Quietly. Deceptively. Like a spider faking death, she checked the timestamps. April 2017. Final edit, July 2019. A full year. Before her first interview, the key itself? Buried deep within her old dev environment. The corresponding validator? Completely absent from the company's master branch. She never merged that part. Intentionally. They never even knew it existed, they thought she handed over the treasure. They never noticed the missing map. The following day, she booked a call she'd been avoiding for years, Professor Ellison, the last person who truly knew the version of Maya who believed code could change the world, not just power a homepage. He answered with his usual gravelly warmth. Let me guess. They finally tried to take the crown jewels. She laughed, just. Barely. He let her speak uninterrupted. She explained the stolen credit. The smirking CTO. The vague threats. The old modules she'd built before this mess ever started. When she paused, he asked one question: where did the system begin? My kitchen table. MacBook. No funding. Just me. Then that's where it belongs. They bought your time, Maya. Not your past. And definitely not your soul. She sent him her contract. Watched him review it in real time. Paragraphs lit up in track changes like danger zones on a battlefield. He circled the same line she had seen before: all intellectual property developed during the period of employment and directly related to company objectives. That's your shield, he said. They only own what you created while on their leash. Your original logic? That's pre-owned. She stared at the screen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat. They can't patent what predates their signature, he added. They can't stake claim to your fingerprints. That night? She didn't go to sleep. She printed her original architecture. Scribbled on every margin. Rewrote functions on napkins. Cross-verified hashes. Dug up an old USB drive from inside her apartment smoke detector where she'd hidden the original builder token. Every part of her knew this wasn't about vindication.it. Was about legacy. The next morning, she showed up to work like nothing had happened. Headphones on. Calm face. Steady hands. But something subtle had changed. She opened the production repo. Found a fork labeled Maya_legacy_v4, a name she hadn't seen since before the product even had investors. It was still there, still active, still calling functions she had written with insomnia and idealism, and nested inside one of those modules. She found it, the validator. Not in plain sight. Obscured. Muted. But still present. They hadn't removed it. Worse, they didn't even know it existed. She smirked, because now she knew something they didn't, and she wasn't just ready, she was dangerous. 2 days later. The email arrived. Subject line: Quick Sync, Friday 4:30 p.m. Maya stared at it like a magician eyeing a trapdoor she helped install. She knew the timing. Knew the pattern. Derek scheduled his executions the same way people choose happy hour, strategically, with plausible deniability and a side of smug. Far enough into the week that no one would question the fallout, close enough to the weekend to let damage control breathe. She didn't delete the invite. Didn't respond. She marked it maybe and closed the tab. Her next move wasn't rage. It wasn't confrontation. It was a printer. At 11 p.m. that night, Maya printed out her entire code tree. Her original one. The skeleton of the platform. Layer by layer. Like anatomical diagrams of a creature no one understood except the person who gave it life. Every flowchart, every logic loop, every signature token. She sat on the hardwood floor, surrounded by the past, red marker in hand, annotating each section like she was grading the world's most personal final exam. At the center of it all. One recursive function, her heartbeat validator. A quiet piece of brilliance that no one had noticed. They'd ported the shell. They'd stolen the syntax. But the soul? The soul was still tied to her. And it was watching. When the calendar rolled into Friday, she arrived at the office early. Earlier than usual. Earlier than anyone. She booted into the cloned environment, legacy_prod_v3, the same one Derek had insisted they keep just in case. The safety net. The fallback plan. He never realized that the fallback was where she'd hidden the tripwire. She didn't modify anything. Didn't write fresh logic. That would be traceable. Instead, she checked the access logs. Quietly. Casually. Like someone browsing weather forecasts while planning a storm. Her validator was untouched. Still dormant. Still waiting for the right sequence. She didn't even need to activate it. The next step in their launch plan, Derek's pet feature, the flashy, demo-only encryption module he demanded fast-tracked, was hard-coded to call the validation check. It was built to fail without her key, and it would. Fail publicly. 3:55 p.m. Friday. Maya walked toward the meeting room like a soldier strolling into déjà vu. Glass doors. White walls. Fluorescent lights that hummed like they'd seen too much. Derek sat at the head of the table, surrounded by an HR rep and a third person Maya didn't recognize, probably a legal observer pretending to be a culture consultant. He didn't greet her. Didn't make eye contact. Maya, he began, flipping a tablet open, this is just a realignment discussion. She sat down. Hands calm. Posture perfect. We've noticed philosophical misalignment. He continued. Your technical contributions have been solid, but synergy matters. We need a team that grows together. The word synergy hit the air like a cold fart. Vague. Offensive. Impossible to argue with. HR chimed in, smile surgically attached. We appreciate your dedication, but unfortunately, today marks the end of your journey with us. Maya didn't flinch. You'll receive full severance, prorated equity summary, and support from our transition team, the third person added, like they were selling a luxury cruise. Derek finally looked up. Expecting something. A crack. A tear. A dramatic goodbye. Instead, she just nodded, understood. They blinked. That wasn't the reaction they'd rehearsed for. As she stood, Maya caught her own reflection in the glass panel behind them. Same hoodie. Same resting expression. But there was something different now. Something unshakable. She didn't storm out. She walked. Measured. Unrushed. At her desk, her credentials were already revoked. Slack logged her out mid-scroll. GitHub permissions vanished in real time, the screen faded to the login prompt like it was relieved to forget her. She opened her personal locker. Pulled out her own laptop, the one with the dented edge and the holographic sticker peeling off. The lid. The one that mattered. The one with history inside. Jamie, the bright-eyed receptionist who still believed in company culture, looked up as she passed. You good? He whispered, eyes wide. She smiled faintly. Leaned in. Whatever happens. Monday, don't touch the login system. He blinked, confused. She tapped his desk once and walked out. The air outside was brisk. The kind of cold that made your lungs hurt, but in a cleansing way. She paused at the curb, watching cars pass. The startup's logo reflected in the lobby glass behind her, twisted by sunlight, bent by motion. 2 weeks. That was the deadline. The product launch. The investor demo. The future. Without her key, it wouldn't survive the opening slide. Back in her apartment, she didn't rage. Didn't cry. She made tea. Let it cool. Booted up her system. At 2:14 a.m., she uploaded the token, not onto her laptop, but into an encrypted vault buried behind 2 VPNs and a passphrase so long it took her 2 tries to type it cleanly. It lived nowhere visible. No fingerprints. No breadcrumbs. The validator waited for one thing, a specific chain of events triggered during a live interaction with Derek's pride and joy, the animated, real-time integrity check built for the demo. She hadn't touched that logic in over a year, but they never removed it, because Derek thought it made him look smart, and now? It would make him look exposed. The following week, the startup's social channels erupted with anticipation. Hashtags. Motion graphics. Slick teaser reels featuring Derek pointing at whiteboards like a man who just discovered bullet points. Phrases like revolutionizing trust and enterprise security, reinvented, splashed across LinkedIn posts crafted by PR interns who thought encryption was just a fancy word for locked folders. The official announcement dropped on Wednesday. Live demo, Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Witness the future complete with a photo of Derek standing confidently under stage lights, chin lifted, blazer sharp, sneaker laces perfectly symmetrical. Maya watched from her apartment. Calm. Steady. No rush. In her breathing. No trembling in her hands. She baked a tray of brownies. Not for comfort. For symmetry. Something precise. Something clean, because this wasn't sabotage. It was symmetry. They'd built a monument on bones they didn't own, and now gravity was about to return. Thursday evening, she checked the logs. Nothing had pinged the validator yet. The heartbeat subroutine sat dormant, hidden in plain sight. Like a sleeping watchdog with no leash, she shut her laptop and slept beside it. Not restlessly. Not fearfully. She slept like someone who knew the structure would collapse the moment someone tugged the wrong thread. Friday arrived without ceremony. Maya made tea. Pulled on an old hoodie. Logged into her private dashboard one final time and confirmed what she already suspected. Still untouched, still waiting. At 12:57 p.m., a push notification hit her phone. Startup X. Live in 3 minutes. Watch here. She clicked the link. A countdown appeared over a looping soundtrack that sounded like someone fed motivational quotes into a synth engine and turned the dial to Tech Bro. She minimized the tab. Let it play in the background. Her attention was on the validator log. The key was buried so deep in the authentication logic, most engineers wouldn't even know what it was checking. It wasn't about denying access. It was about asking a question: who wrote this? And if the answer didn't match, it didn't explode. It just stopped working. 1:06 p.m. The live stream began, 6 minutes late. The host smiled too hard and welcomed the audience to the most advanced leap in startup infrastructure since sliced APIs. Derek walked on stage to applause, prepped, smug, practiced. Dressed like he wanted to be Mark Cuban's understudy. Behind him, a 30-foot screen flashing phrases Maya had coined years ago in old GitHub comments. Modular trust validation. Real-time encryption symmetry. Self-healing logic. Trees. He didn't understand any of them. But he'd memorized them. Recited them like lines in a play he didn't write. The future isn't coming, Derek declared, grinning. It's already here. He turned to the monitor, tablet in hand. Let me show you what happens when we engage live trust mode. Maya didn't flinch. She watched the monitor. The exact moment the feature engaged, the heartbeat ping called its subroutine, and then everything stopped. A black screen, white letters, error, builder signature unrecognized, validation failed, core access restricted, function integrity lock engaged. Derek blinked. Tapped the tablet again, nothing. A spinning circle replaced the demo interface. A soft, flashing red line blinked along the bottom of the screen. Owner key not verified. Contact original architect. Silence. The chat exploded. LMAO, what is this? Wait, this isn't a bug, right? Who's Maya? Maya's name appeared in the lower right corner of the scrolling log pane, a window someone backstage had forgotten to minimize before screen sharing. User ref, mrauth fail legacy _v4 _ path. There it was, the signature. Not highlighted. Not shouted. Just visible. Like a watermark on a forged masterpiece. Derek tried to recover. Tried to improvise. He blamed a test environment. Blamed QA. Blamed a legacy sync hiccup. Investors in the room glanced at each other. Unamused. The kind of quiet skepticism. That smells like lawsuits, someone off camera shouted. Run it again from backup. Derek's voice cracked. We are initiating fallback protocol. Maya smirked. She already knew what the backup was, the same cloned environment. Same repo. Same tripwire. They hadn't even changed the labels. Legacy _prod was built entirely on her forgotten foundation. The fallback failed. Another red screen. Another denial, this time, with one more line, verify _auth, source signature not found, recursive lock engaged. Now Derek panicked. Whispered frantically to someone backstage. The livestream froze, then cut to a generic splash screen. The chat didn't stop. Yo. This thing's cooked. Whoever Maya is, she just destroyed them. This is glorious. Maya didn't gloat. She didn't cheer. She didn't even blink. She refreshed her validator dashboard. The logs were alive. Dozens of failed handshake requests. All trying to verify access. All hitting the same wall. She closed the lid of her laptop like she was putting a book away. Point 1 she'd already memorized. The live stream never came back. 10 minutes after the feed cut, the startup's official account tweeted a vague statement. Due to unexpected technical issues, today's demo has been postponed. We'll be rescheduling soon. Thank you for your patience. The replies were anything but patient. Translation, Maya wrecked your lunch. Bet the CTO can't even spell API. This is the best software crash since Theranos. Maya didn't reply. Didn't like. Didn't retweet. She simply watched the notifications pile up like digital confetti. Then came the email. It arrived Saturday morning in an envelope delivered by courier, hand-stamped and marked legal department, urgent. She didn't open it right away. Instead, she brewed tea. Sat on her balcony. Let the morning traffic hum below. Eventually, she returned to her desk and opened the packet. 56 pages. Every one of them filled with audit trails, deployment logs, and a desperate attempt to assert that the company had full control and ownership of all deployed code. Maya read it twice, then she drafted a reply. Without a lawyer, she attached one document, an authorship declaration notarized the year before her employment began. She attached one more file, her original schema, complete with timestamps, version history, and a scan of the napkin sketch she drew in her apartment before the founders had even registered a domain. Lastly, she included a screenshot. A single line from her dormant validator logic. No threats. No statements. Just code. She hit send. By Monday morning, the dominoes had started to fall. Investors backed out. One of them posted a cryptic message on LinkedIn. We believe in supporting visionaries, not thieves. Another retracted a signed term sheet and filed a breach of trust complaint. The startup's valuation cratered by 60% in 48 hours. Anonymous Glassdoor reviews popped up overnight. Leadership team lacks basic understanding of infrastructure. CTO built an empire on someone else's logic. Avoid unless you like watching castles crumble. Derek's LinkedIn went dark. His face disappeared from the company's website. Slack logs surfaced, screenshots of messages where he begged engineers to just copy Maya's version. It works cleaner. One thread revealed his approval of the cloned branch. Timestamped. Traced. Unavoidable, the board initiated an internal audit. By Wednesday, Derek was no longer listed as CTO. They didn't fire him, they erased him. The company's new interim leadership issued a public statement. It was long, full of legalese and empty apologies. They called it a miscommunication regarding legacy architecture. They tried to spin it as an unfortunate misunderstanding. They blamed a documentation oversight. No one bought it. Reddit exploded. So did tech Twitter. Developers across industries whispered Maya's name like folklore. She didn't post a thread, she didn't share a blog, she uploaded one thing, a screenshot of the validator log and the caption, "Always sign your work." That's all it took. Within hours, recruiters filled her inbox, venture firms reached out, engineers messaged to share their own stories, code stolen, credits erased, contracts weaponized. Quiet rage turned into solidarity. She responded to none of it. She had work to do. In her own sandbox environment, she opened a new repository, fresh commit. Clean slate, except this time, the signature line wasn't hidden in a subroutine. It lived at the top of every file. No company watermark. No branding guidelines, just #architect, Maya art #built. Before you even noticed, when her lawyer called 3 days later, voice taut with adrenaline, he said the startup had agreed to settle. Full removal of her logic. Public acknowledgement. NDA optional. Her response was simple: make sure they remove every trace. And don't redact my name. That was all she wanted. Not payment. Not fame, just truth. By the weekend, an article went viral. Startup demo implodes after firing the woman who built it. It included a side-by-side comparison of Maya's schema and the live stream failure logs. No speculation. No interpretation, just code. And truth doesn't need a microphone when it's embedded in every function call. 2 weeks after the collapse, Maya found herself back at her favorite cafe, the one with the chipped mugs and the lopsided ceiling fan that never quite spun evenly. It smelled like espresso and paperbacks. No tech brothers. No venture capitalists. Just silence. And relief. She sipped her drink slowly, scrolling through headlines without urgency. Startup X implodes after ownership controversy. Ghost in the system. The woman they tried to erase. When IP isn't just code, it's memory. The coverage was relentless. But Maya remained still. She wasn't trying to capitalize on it. She wasn't looking for vindication in likes or shares. The Real win had already happened. A system they claimed as theirs had crumbled under the weight of the truth, and all she had to do was step aside. She left the cafe quietly. Walked past posters for blockchain summits and seed funding bootcamps taped to light poles like digital band-aids on a crumbling wound. At home, her apartment was clean, quiet, untouched. The desk still held the same post-it from weeks ago. Ownership is where it began. She didn't move it. She just opened her terminal, typed a new project name. No company tags. No shared permissions. Just her .as. The directory initialized, she reflected. Not on the crash, but on the quiet power of authorship. That your silence doesn't mean surrender. That walking away isn't weakness, it's precision. They'd fired her like she was noise, but she wasn't noise, she was signal, she was structure, and now, she was legend. Across the industry, whispers began. Not of Maya, the ex-employee, but of Maya, the architect. The one whose validator taught a generation to leave digital signatures behind. Not just in metadata, but in intent. In a co-working space downtown, a junior dev asked their lead, "Did we check for ghost signatures before merging this build?" In a Slack channel for security architects, someone posted a meme of Derek with a red error banner and the caption, "Should have asked Maya." On a podcast, a VC muttered, "You can't automate vision." But none of it mattered to Maya. She didn't want interviews. Or panels. Or viral think pieces. She just wanted the code to be clean, and hers. When the NDA finally arrived in her inbox, half-hearted, corporate, phrased with the grace of a bad apology, she didn't even open it. She dragged it to trash, emptied the folder. Instead, she clicked into her newest repo, typed her first line, not because someone asked, not because someone expected it, because she was free, and because creation, real creation, begins long before anyone else realizes what you're building. She closed her eyes for a moment, took a breath, and smiled. Subscribe now, because stories like this? They're just getting started.